You want to know the difference between somebody who just calls themselves a leader and somebody who really is one. It's simple. A real leader serves before they shine. Let me break that down because too many people get this twisted. Too many people think leadership is about having the title, the big office, the recognition, the applause. They think it's about standing in front of the room with everybody looking at them. Nah, that's not leadership, that's ego. Real leadership is sacrifice. It's stepping up when it's uncomfortable. It's carrying weight when nobody else wants to pick it up. It's being last in line, not first, because you want to make sure everybody else eats before you do. Listen to me, if you need the spotlight to validate you, you're not a leader. You're a performer, and the world doesn't need more performers, it needs more servants. It needs people who are willing to wash feet, not just wear crowns. It needs people who will get down in the trenches and fight alongside their team, not bark orders from the top of the mountain. A real leader isn't scared of the dirty work. They embrace it because they know their actions speak louder than their position ever could. See, you don't prove you're a leader by what you demand from people. You prove it by what you're willing to do for people. You don't prove it by how many people serve you. You prove it by how many people you serve. That's what separates the ones who talk from the ones who truly lead. When you look back in history, the greatest leaders weren't the ones who sat in luxury while their people struggled. They were the ones who sacrificed their comfort for the growth of their people. They were the ones who said, if it costs me something, but it gives them life, then I'll pay the price. And let's be real, serving before shining isn't glamorous. It doesn't always feel good. Most of the time it looks like staying up late when everyone else goes home. It looks like carrying the extra load when others have tapped out. It looks like taking the hit so somebody else doesn't have to. And you're not gonna get claps for that. Nobody's posting you on Instagram for that, but that's leadership. The real leaders understand that greatness comes with sacrifice, and they don't just say it, they live it. Let me tell you something, you can't inspire people if you're not willing to bleed for them. You can't expect people to give their all if you're giving half. People don't follow titles, they follow examples. If they see you grinding, if they see you sweating, if they see you putting others first, they'll trust you, they'll respect you, and they'll give you everything they've got. But if all you ever do is demand and never give, you'll lose them. You'll never get their heart, and leadership without people's hearts. That's just empty authority, and here's the hard truth. A lot of people don't want to serve because serving means humility. Serving means admitting that this isn't about you, and that's tough for most because ego loves control. Ego loves attention. Ego wants to shine, but it doesn't want to sacrifice. Ego will have you thinking leadership is about being in charge, when in reality leadership is about being accountable. Ego will have you chasing validation, when real leadership is about creating transformation. I've seen people who couldn't lead their own lives trying to lead others, and it doesn't work. You can't pour into people if you're empty. You can't tell people to serve if you're too prideful to serve yourself. That's why the first thing a real leader does is check themselves. They ask, am I willing to go without so others can have? Am I willing to sacrifice comfort so they can grow? Am I willing to step back so others can step forward? Because if the answer is no, then you're not ready to lead, you're just ready to be seen. Now I need you to understand, when you serve before you shine, you might feel invisible for a while. People might overlook you, they might not celebrate you, they might even take you for granted. But don't let that stop you. Because every seed you plant in serving eventually grows into trust, loyalty, and influence. And trust me, when it's time to shine, when it's time to lead on the highest level, the people you've served will remember. They'll remember how you showed up for them, and they'll show up for you. I'm telling you right now, your greatness is not determined by how many people clap for you, but by how many people you carry with you. If you want to know if you're a real leader, look around. Who's better because of you? Who's stronger because you lifted them? Who's standing tall because you were willing to bend down and help them back up? That's the scorecard of a leader. Not how much you shine, but how many people shine because of you. And here's the beauty of it. When you serve before you shine, you don't just change people. You build leaders because they see your humility, they see your consistency, they see your sacrifice, and it gives them permission to lead the same way. They learn that leadership isn't about control, it's about contribution. And that's how you create something that lasts. That's how you leave a legacy, not by how loud your name rings, but by how many leaders rise up because of your example. So stop chasing the spotlight, stop worrying about who notices you, stop waiting to shine before you start serving. Serve now, sacrifice now, lead now, because the real leaders, the ones who leave impact, the ones who change lives, they understand this truth. The shine is temporary, but the service is eternal. Anybody can stand in front of a crowd and talk, but a real leader, they don't just talk, they carry a vision. They don't just say words, they paint pictures. They speak in a way that makes you see something bigger than where you are. And when you see it, you feel it. That's the difference between somebody who's just giving speeches and somebody who's leading. Words might hit your ears, but vision hits your heart. A real leader doesn't just tell people what to do, they show people where they're going, and it's not about hype, it's not about making it sound cute, it's about clarity. Because when the vision is clear, the grind makes sense. When the vision is clear, the struggle doesn't scare people, it shapes people. But when the vision is cloudy, when the words are empty, people lose hope. They lose direction, they wander. And wandering people don't build legacies. You ever notice that the leaders who change the world, the ones who leave a mark that lasts, they didn't just say things, they gave people a reason to believe. They stood in the middle of darkness and said, I see light. They looked at brokenness and said, I see wholeness. They looked at the impossible and said, I see victory. And because they saw it, they made others see it too. That's vision, that's leadership. You can't lead people where you don't see yourself going. You can't expect them to believe in something that you don't believe in deep down. And this is why a real leader spends more time building vision than building excuses. A real leader doesn't complain about what's missing, they focus on what's possible. They don't dwell on how hard it is, they show people why it's worth it. And listen, when your vision is strong enough, it makes people hungry. It makes people get up earlier, stay later, and push harder, not because they have to, but because they want to. People don't follow titles, they follow direction, they follow clarity, they follow conviction. If your words don't spark something inside of them, they're not going to move. But if your vision makes their heart race, if your vision makes them see a future they didn't even know was possible, they'll follow you through fire. They'll sacrifice comfort, they'll go further than they thought they could go. That's the power of vision. It multiplies energy. But here's the catch. A real leader can't fake it. You can't just stand up and say, this is the plan, when you don't really believe it yourself. People can smell doubt. They can feel uncertainty. And if they sense you don't believe in what you're saying, they won't believe either. That's why real leadership requires authenticity. You have to live the vision before you lead the vision. You have to embody it, breathe it, sacrifice for it before you ever expect anybody else to. And let me be real, vision comes with weight. Because when you carry vision, you're going to be misunderstood. You're going to look crazy to people who don't see what you see. You're going to be criticized, laughed at, doubted. But that's the cost of being ahead. A leader sees the finish line when everybody else is still stretching at the start. A leader sees the mountain peak while others are staring at the dirt beneath their feet. You've got to be willing to hold that vision even when no one else gets it, because eventually when they do see it, you'll be the one they thank for not giving up. And don't miss this. Vision isn't just about the destination. It's about giving people purpose right now. Because when people know where they're going, the pain of today makes sense. When you know you're running towards something greater, you don't quit because it's hard. You keep pushing because you know it's worth it. A leader's vision turns pain into process and process into progress. That's how teams survive storms. They know the rain isn't the end. It's just watering the seeds of the dream. And listen to me, your words can spark fire, but your vision has to keep the fire burning. If you want people to stay committed, if you want them to push when it hurts, if you want them to give you their best, they need to know you're leading them somewhere meaningful. Because if they don't see the why, they won't survive the how. I need you to get this. Vision is contagious. When you're locked in, when you see it clearly, when you talk about it with fire, people catch it. They start to see themselves in the picture. They start to believe they can achieve what once felt out of reach. That's the mark of a real leader. They don't just have a vision for themselves. They transfer vision into others. They make people believe not just in the leader, but in themselves. And that's when the magic happens. That's when you stop pulling people and they start running with you. That's when you don't have to convince them anymore because the vision convinced them for you. That's when you stop dragging bodies and start building believers. That's when the impossible becomes possible because enough people believe in it together. So hear me loud, don't just talk. Don't just use words. Words without vision are noise. But when you speak with vision, when you carry it with conviction, when you live it so deeply that people can't help but feel it, you won't just lead them, you'll transform them. And that's what makes a real leader unforgettable. Everybody wants to be called a leader when it's easy. Everybody wants to lead when the sun is shining, when the money's flowing, when the crowd is cheering. But the truth is, leadership isn't proven in the light. It's tested in the dark. It's tested when the pressure shows up, when the storm hits, when everything that can go wrong goes wrong. That's when you find out who's real and who's pretending, because a real leader stays consistent under pressure. You don't measure leadership by how loud somebody is when it's easy. You measure it by how steady they are when it's hard. Anybody can smile when things are smooth, but can you stay calm when the waves crash? Anybody can be confident when everybody agrees with you, but can you stay rooted when they doubt you, when they criticize you, when they walk away from you? Leadership isn't about being popular, it's about being unshakable. Pressure exposes what's real. Pressure strips away the image, the mask, the facade. And under pressure, some people fold, they point fingers, they make excuses, they hide, but leaders don't run from the fire, they walk through it. Leaders don't break when it gets heavy, they bend, but they don't snap. Leaders don't collapse when the pressure rises, they dig in, they grind harder, and they remind everybody around them, we're not going down like this, we're built for this. And don't get it twisted. Staying consistent under pressure doesn't mean you don't feel the weight. It doesn't mean you don't feel fear, doubt, or exhaustion. It means you don't let those feelings dictate your actions. It means when everything in you wants to quit, you still show up. It means when you're tired, when you're drained, when you don't even know how you're going to make it. You refuse to break character. You refuse to stop leading. That's what separates leaders from everybody else. Because let's be honest, people don't need leadership when everything is perfect. They need it when everything is chaotic. They don't need your example when life is easy. They need it when life is crushing them. And if you're inconsistent, if you disappear, if you crumble when the weight shows up, how can they trust you? How can they believe in you? How can they follow you? Leadership is a promise to stay steady when everything else is shaking. Think about it. If you're leading a team, a family, a community, whatever it is, and they look at you during the toughest moment and you're panicking, you're doubting, you're quitting, what do you think that does to them? Your inconsistency breeds insecurity. But when you stand tall in the storm, when you hold your ground under pressure, it gives them confidence. It gives them courage. It makes them believe they can stand too. That's why your consistency isn't just about you. It's about everyone who's watching you. And here's the truth. Pressure is never going away. Life will test you. Seasons will stretch you. Circumstances will hit you that you didn't see coming. That's not a maybe. That's a guarantee. The question isn't whether pressure will come. The question is whether you will remain consistent when it does. Because the world doesn't remember people who only led in comfort. It remembers the ones who stood firm in chaos. Staying consistent under pressure is what builds trust. It's what builds credibility. It's what makes people believe in you for the long haul. You want people to follow you not just because of your talent or your words, but because they know no matter what happens, you won't quit on them. You won't disappear when it gets messy. You won't change your tune when the applause stops. You'll be the same leader when it's raining as you are when it's sunny. That's consistency, that's leadership. And understand, consistency doesn't mean perfection. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have moments where you fall short, but the difference is you get back up, you own it. You keep moving. You don't let the pressure break your character or your commitment. People don't need you to be flawless. They need you to be faithful. They need to know that even in your weakness, you won't abandon the mission. Sometimes the only thing keeping people going is the fact that you're still going. Sometimes the only reason they haven't given up is because they see you haven't. That's the weight of leadership. You carry consistency not just for yourself, but for everyone connected to you. And if you want to call yourself a leader, you've got to accept that. You've got to decide right now, no matter how heavy it gets, no matter how long it takes, no matter how much pressure comes, I'm not folding. I'm not quitting. I'm not backing down. That's why the great ones stand out. Because when the world was falling apart, they stood still. When everybody else panicked, they held the line. When the pressure rose, their consistency spoke louder than their words ever could. And because of that, people followed, people believed, people endured. That's what real leadership looks like. So, don't just lead when it's easy. Don't just lead when it feels good. If you want to be a real leader, stay consistent under pressure. Because pressure doesn't destroy leaders, it reveals them. The greatest mistake people make when they step into leadership is thinking it's about gathering followers. Thinking it's about how many people clap when you walk in the room, how many people post about you, how many people are standing behind you. That's not real leadership, that's celebrity. A real leader doesn't build followers, a real leader builds leaders. And here's why that matters. Followers will praise you, but leaders will carry the vision with you. Followers will cheer for you, but leaders will fight beside you. Followers might celebrate you while you're shining, but leaders will still push when you're gone. If all you've got is followers, the moment you step away, everything crumbles. But if you've built leaders, the work keeps going, the mission lives on, and the legacy never dies. See, a lot of people call themselves leaders because they like being needed. They like when people depend on them for every decision, every move, every answer. It makes them feel important, but listen, if people can't move without you, you haven't led them. You've limited them. You've made yourself the ceiling instead of the foundation, and that's not leadership. Leadership isn't about creating dependency, it's about creating destiny. It's about lifting people so high that even when you're not there, they can still stand. A real leader celebrates when the people around them grow. A real leader isn't intimidated when somebody else shines. They're proud of it because they understand that the goal isn't to be the only one carrying the torch. The goal is to light so many flames that the fire spreads far beyond them. That's why leaders invest. They teach, they mentor, they correct, they challenge, because they want to pull the greatness out of the people around them. But let's be real, building leaders is harder than building followers. It's easy to get people to admire you. It's harder to get them to rise with you, because building leaders means you have to give people responsibility. You have to trust them, empower them, let them make mistakes, and then walk with them through the lessons. It's slower, it's messier, and it doesn't always feel glamorous. But if you're serious about being a leader, that's the price you pay. You don't just want people to clap for you. You want them to grow because of you. Think about the leaders who made the biggest impact in history. They didn't just gather crowds, they created movements, and movements don't last if it's just one person at the top. Movements last because the leader poured into others until those others could stand on their own and lead. That's how you multiply impact. That's how you change generations. And here's the thing, when you build leaders, it requires humility. You can't be threatened by somebody else's growth. You can't be jealous when they start leading in their own right. You can't try to hold them back just so you can stay on top. A real leader knows that their success isn't measured by how high they stand, but by how many people rise with them. If you're the only one winning, you're not a leader, you're just a boss. But if the people around you are winning, if they're growing, if they're leading, then you've done your job. You want to know the most powerful thing a leader can hear. It's not applause, it's not recognition. It's somebody saying, because of you, I became stronger. Because of you, I believed I could. Because of you, I stepped up and now I'm leading too. That's legacy. That's impact, that's leadership, and it's not about creating clones. It's not about making people just like you. It's about helping them discover their own voice, their own strength, their own calling. It's about showing them they've got what it takes, then stepping back and letting them use it. That's real leadership, not control, but empowerment, not hoarding power, but spreading it. The truth is, one day you won't be here. One day, you won't be in the position, you won't be the one holding the mic, you won't be the one calling the shots. And when that day comes, if you haven't built leaders, everything you worked for will fade. But if you've built leaders, if you've multiplied yourself into others, then your influence will outlive you. People you've never met will still feel the impact of the seeds you planted in someone else. That's why you can't get caught up in being the star. Stars fade, legacies don't, and the only way to create a legacy is to build leaders, to pour so much into people that long after you're gone, they're still pouring into others. That's multiplication. That's impact that can't be measured. So stop counting followers. Stop worrying about how many people know your name. Stop chasing the applause. If you want to be a real leader, ask yourself, who have I built? Who is stronger because I invested in them? Who can lead because I showed them how? Who can stand tall because I refused to let them stay small? That's the scorecard that matters. That's the scoreboard of leadership. A real leader builds leaders, not followers. And if you do that, if you commit to that, your name might not always be the one in lights, but your impact will echo for generations.